Hello. So in the last video, we looked at CSV and JSON data. We didn't have enough time to go over APIs, so I want to talk about that in this video. API is Application Programming Interface. It is a URL that gives you JSON data. We talked about JSON in the last video, and you can watch that to understand fully what that looks like. It's going to be nice because you can just use the URL and all that data can be stored somewhere else. Maybe you're working with a ton of data, right? This might be a good idea for that. Maybe you're working with a company's data and you need an API key for that. Or working with real-time data. In this instance, we're looking at weather data as a starting point, and we want to check the weather wherever you are. We're near Austin right now. What's the weather in Austin today? You can get real-time data, and that can make your visualizations and projects a lot more interesting. Figure out what kind of data you want, and then find out where you can get that API key. I found this GitHub repo that gives you public APIs for free. Some APIs you have to buy or pay for, like a subscription, and some are just open source that you can use. I think this is how I found WeatherStack. WeatherStack wasn't working for whatever reason, I can't remember. So I switched to OpenWeather, which is what we're going to use in this demo. But you do have to create an account for this. Before we get started with the demo, I want to show you that if you want to create an AI chatbot, you could go to openai.com and then go to /API to look at their information regarding the API key that you need. You can determine what LLM you want to use and check out the API pricing here. So for example, if we go ChatGPT 5.2, price input is 1.7 per 1 million tokens. So you're paying for a specific amount of tokens, and each query you give the model is going to cost tokens. You can start to look into this if integrating AI into an application or a project is something that you want to do. It's totally within your capabilities to do. And for this demo, we will just stick with OpenWeather. So you go get API key, and then you have to sign in. Oh, and once you sign in, I have my account and my API keys here. I'm not paying for this, so I don't mind showing it. Once you get an API key, you need to put it somewhere safe and not show anybody what it is, because in the circumstance of which you are paying for a subscription, you don't want somebody having that key and using up all your money. Here, I've generated a key called test1 for this OpenWeather platform. I'll copy that. In the project that we set up during the last video, I've got sketch 1. I'm going to create a new sketch called API sketch.js. And you're not supposed to do this. I'm pasting the API key that I'm using here. Don't do it because all of our projects are open to the public and they can see your code and see your key. So keep that in mind. All right, we're going to do async function setup and function draw, create canvas window width, window height, and keep the background gray. Up top, similar to what we did last time, I want to verbalize what my goal is. So I want to do using user input with a search bar. Using user input with a search bar, I want to get the temp of a specified city. First thing we're going to do is create an API key. So let's go back and determine what the URL will be. Click on API, go to API docs, and here you can read through the documentation. If you're using a different API, go to their API docs and read through their documentation to understand how to use it. So I'm coming over here to current and forecast weather because I want to know the current weather data. It says how to make an API call, gives you the URL to make that API call. So that's really handy. I'll copy that and paste it and go 3 dots, view, word wrap, so I can see the whole thing. I need to put it in quotes and semicolon. Okay, so we can't leave it like this though. So I don't need all of this stuff right now because it's querying a latitude here, which I do not want. So, and then it's got this and a PID equal API key. So I'm going to remove all of this. Yeah, and I do need weather. So this is what I want the URL to look like right now. I'm going to create a few more variables called let data, let input for like the input search, and then let button because I want a button and a search bar. In function setup, I'm going to create a user input area and say input equal create input. So this is a P5 function that is simulating an HTML element, create input, and you can go into the P5 references and read about that there and see, okay, what are the parameters that I'm working with. So here, when you create input, you say what's the text inside of the input. So here, I want my text to be enter city name. And then you can change the size and the location of the input by saying input dot position. It's going to be at 20 pixels, so the upper left corner. And then input dot size. Let's just keep it at 200 by 20 for now. We've got an input area, so we can come up here and say Houston or something. But now we need a button to search. Let's go ahead and create our button. We'll say button equal create button. What do you want it to say? We could say search for button dot position. If we come over here and we want our button to be here, right? Here, let me make that bigger. We want our button to be here. We need its X value of the button to be input X plus input width divided by 2 plus 20 pixels for a buffer. So this is going to look something like this. Input.x plus input.width divided by 2 plus 20. And then the y will be 20. And let's see what that looks like. I put divided by 2, but I needed to just put input.width. So we've got input.x plus input.width plus 20 as a buffer. Okay, cool. So we've got our search button, our input, and now when we press search button.mouse press, we want to search data. We need to create a function called search data down at the bottom. And we're going to make it async, which we talked about in the last video. So async function search data. We want to search whatever city is input. So we'll say let city equal input dot value. Let URL equal API URL. I'm just going to tab quote unquote question mark Q equal. This is coming from the API documentation, so that's how we know how to write it. Whatever city we put into the search, that input area, whatever city is that, and then plus and APID equal API key. This is the structure of the URL that we need to use in order to get that real-time data. So we've got 2 URLs currently. First, we've got the URL to the website. So really, this isn't the API URL. This should be like the website URL. Down here, we've got another URL that attaches on the city and the API key as well. So all of that together, that's what we need in order to search the JSON data. So we already have data up here. Down here in our search data, we're going to put data equal await. And we could do fetch, but we're going to use load JSON for right now. And URL. Like that. Okay, so that now should get the data that we want. And we could use console.log to read data and see what's being printed here. So let's go ahead and do that. In order to see this, we're going to have to press the button. So let's go take a look at that. F12 to open up the console here and then search. Okay, so, it didn't find anything because we didn't put in the city. Okay, I had to change here. I had 3.0. I needed to change it to 2.5. 2.5. I was looking at one call API 3.0 and I should have been looking at current and forecast here. Here is where it says 2.5. I was looking in the wrong area for the URL. I changed it to 2.5 and I already did this demo. I started doing this yesterday, but it took a couple of hours for the API key to actually kick in. So if it's not working for whatever reason right now, if you've done everything that I covered and you put in Austin and you search, and what should show up after a couple of hours is this information here. So you've got cloud information, coordinates, time zone, weather, all sorts of stuff, wind speed, degrees, gust. You can see all that data, but what we want to do is we want to see it printed over in our project. So now it is time to visualize that data in the draw function. So we're going to go in our draw function. We're going to say if data. So if we have the data, then I want to text location, colon, and spacebar, then plus data dot name. So we know this because we can come over here and we can see that there is a parameter called name Austin here. So we need to call whatever name has been input here. Okay, so that's how we know. And then we need to choose its X and Y location. So we'll put 20, 100 for right now. And then we can text any information that we want to learn. So I'm going to do temperature. And it just like auto populated data.main.temp and gave it an X and Y location. Cool. So I've got the location and I've got the temperature being texted out. And then you can change the text size, like 30, and text align and things like that. But we'll just see what happens right now. Search. Cool. So location, I misspelled location. That's fine. Location is Austin. Temperature is 296.76. Oh no, it's in Celsius. So we have to change this to Fahrenheit. So the way that we do this is by coming down here to our URL and tacking on something that tells it to use a different unit. So we just say plus quote unquote and units equal metric. Instead of metric, we'll just change that to imperial because I'm from Texas. And then up here, let's just add after the temperature. We'll say plus, there, did it, degree Fahrenheit. So I want to see that degree Fahrenheit next to the text. So let's go back, enter city name, Austin, temperature 74.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's double check to see that that's accurate. And it is 75 degrees on my phone. So pretty accurate. Let's see What's another city? Denver. What's Denver look like right now? Oh, no. Okay, so it didn't get rid of the old text, so we would have to go and say maybe every time we search the data, we will draw the background. Or we could just put background in the draw function. So let's see if that fixed our problem. Austin, search. Houston, search. Cool. And then Denver, search. Sweet. So let's go ahead and change the location text. We have real-time data for Austin, so you could change the whole environment, the way that it looks, depending on the temperature. If it's above a certain degrees, the environment looks this way. If it's got a certain amount of clouds, maybe that's how many populates on screen. And then you've got like user input, so they can decide what they want to see. So you can craft a really cool experience for people here. So that's a little bit of a look into API keys and APIs. And we chatted briefly about what we might need to create a chatbot. I think in future videos, I'll probably end up making tutorials specifically related to chatbots. So stay tuned for that, and happy coding.